Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. We got NBA on Thursday night. As far as Wednesday, I had a winning night. I went 4-3, 2-3 in the NBA, 2-0 in college basketball. So I had a slightly profitable Wednesday night. I'll take it. The way things have gone the last couple of months, I will definitely take a green night. So we're moving on to Thursday. So here's what we're going to do with these uploads. I'm not going to be able to do the games with teams that are on a back-to-back because I'm making these videos while the games are on. So if the Nuggets are playing, I can't really handicap a game for tomorrow, not knowing how the game's going to end. Maybe it goes into triple overtime, something like that. So what I'm going to do in these videos is go through the games that have teams that aren't playing currently. So in this video, I went through 3 of them. Obviously, we'll go through all of them on the live show tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Let's do it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. First up, we got the Pacers on the road in Detroit. The Pistons are laying 2.5 points at home in this one. Total sitting at 225.5 or 226, depending on your sports book. Let's get into this one, and we'll start with some trends. Indiana has not had problems with this Pistons team. They're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 matchups against Detroit. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 trips out to Detroit. So they haven't had problems going on the road to Detroit either. This is also a Pacers team that's playing really good basketball right now. They're 12-4 against the spread in their last 16, 12-4 straight up. So if you've been betting the Pacers, you have been cashing out recently. That being said, you could say the same thing about Detroit. 8-4 against the spread in their last 12 overall, 10-2 straight up. So 2 red hot Eastern Conference teams meeting here. Indiana has gotten the better of the Pistons in recent matchups. So let's get into some injury reports and some good news for the Pacers. Looks like Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith both have a chance of returning. Halliburton only missed, I think it was 1 or 2 games. Nesmith's been out forever. Both are listed as questionable, so Indiana would love to have these 2 guys out on the floor.
Real quick, something I wanted to add there. I said Halliburton and Nesmith have a chance of returning. I mean, Halliburton has a groin injury, and it's only been 1 game. Usually, that's like 2 or 3 games. So, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say Halliburton doesn't return. But he is listed as questionable, so there is a chance he returns here.
On the Detroit side, it's just Jaden Ivey who got injured 7 games ago. Other than that, Pistons are in pretty good shape. So let's match these 2 teams up on the floor. And like I said, these 2 teams are playing some basketball recently. In the last 10 games, Pacers are 4th in offensive rating, 16th in defensive rating. The Pistons are 13th and 7th. The big difference here, look at the bottom, strength of schedule. In the last 10 games, the Pacers are 1st in the NBA in strength of schedule. The Pistons are 22nd, 27th in the last 5 games. So both these teams are playing good basketball. Indiana's done it against a significantly stronger schedule. One thing we do have to give this Pistons team is they did not let losing Jaden Ivey break their stride. In fact, they kind of got hotter after Jaden Ivey went down with injury. In the last 7 games since Ivey went out, they're 6-1 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. And specifically on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, check this out. In their last 7 games without Jaden Ivey, a 109.1 defensive rating, turnover rate looks great, opponent effective field goal percentage looks great. They're playing much better defense without Jaden Ivey on the floor, and it does make sense. He's not the strongest defender, and with him out, guys like Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris are seeing more minutes. They're playing some good defense. So the Pistons defense has actually been better since Jaden Ivey went out. You can see the shooting percentage here. Pistons defense has been stronger without Jaden Ivey. That being said, we do have to point at their schedule. Look at the last few games here for the Pistons. You got Orlando, they can't score. Charlotte, Minnesota, Portland, Brooklyn, Golden State's really been struggling to score. Toronto, you got the Knicks in there. So you give them the Knicks. That's a tough game. But other than the Knicks game, not a ton of good offenses on the recent schedule for the Pistons. In fact, they've played some really awful offenses. Could definitely help explain the improved defensive numbers for the Pistons. We know this Pistons defense is not that good. Now that they're going to start seeing some stronger offenses again like the Pacers, I expect to see this Pistons defense come back down to earth a little bit. And this specifically could be a tough matchup for them. This is a Pistons defense that's been ripping a lot of turnovers recently. They're 7th in forced turnover rate in the last 10 games. Problem with that is the Pacers are 2nd in turnover rate in the last 10 games. Pacers do a great job protecting the basketball. Also, this is an Indiana offense that lives in the pick and roll. They're 7th in pick and roll frequency, 5th in efficiency, plays directly into the weakness of the Pistons defense, 22nd in defensive efficiency against the pick and roll. So even though the Pistons have been playing strong defense as of late, I think the Pacers are going to be able to score points in this one. And speaking of the pick and roll, let's talk about TJ McConnell. Check this matchup out for McConnell. So TJ McConnell, one of the main users of the pick and roll in the Pacers offense, leads the team in both frequency percentage and efficiency. TJ McConnell loves using that pick and roll. Also, what else do we know about TJ McConnell? He loves those short little mid-range shots, right? Those little 9-10 footers from the paint. 48% of his shot attempts are from that range. Why am I bringing that up? Look at the glaring weakness in this Pistons defense. In fact, in the last 5 games, nobody has allowed more shot attempts from that range than the Detroit Pistons defense, and they're 24th in efficiency, so they've struggled to defend them as well. Should be a really nice looking matchup for TJ McConnell. He's also had success against this Pistons team. In his last 4 games against Detroit, he's averaging 13.8 points per game. It's a favorable matchup for McConnell. I don't know what his line is at right now, but we might want to look at TJ McConnell's over points in this one. Those of you looking for props. As a whole, though, I do expect the Pacers to kind of break the streak here with this Pistons defense. Not trying to discredit what the Pistons have done defensively, but this should be a wake-up call, especially if Halliburton and Nesmith are going to be out there. We're going to see this Pacers team at full strength. That's not confirmed yet, but I think the Pistons are going to be able to score points here on Detroit. On the other side of the ball, the Pistons have been playing great offense, but not the strongest matchup for the Pistons offensively. They like to get out in the fast break. Just like the Pacers, they like to run a lot of pick and rolls themselves. Problem is, unlike the Pistons, the Pacers are 6th in the NBA in defensive efficiency against the pick and roll. Also, they're 4th in frequency in terms of transition defense. This is not a Pacers team that lets you get out and run on them. So the matchup for the Pacers offense is pretty favorable, not so much on the Pistons side. So when it comes to betting this game, I mean, as long as Halliburton's playing, I don't see why we wouldn't take Indiana plus the points in this one. Actually, just saw the threes disappear. It's at 2.5 across the board now. So I'll probably be on the Pacers in this one, maybe a Pacers team total over next game. Phoenix is on the road in D.C., and I can't believe I have to talk about the Suns. I don't want to talk about the Suns right now after they did in that Hawks game a couple nights back. Wizards catching 10.5 or 11 points at home. Total sitting at 233 or 233.5. Take a look at the injuries here. Suns most likely without Bradley Beal. Also, they're not going to have Nurkic in this one, which is actually huge because I don't think Nick Richards is going to play yet. In case you haven't heard, they just traded for him, which they badly needed some help in the rebounding department. We'll talk about it in a second. But with Nurkic out, if Nick Richards isn't going to play, Suns are really going to struggle on the glass. We just saw them get dominated on the glass by the Hawks, who were missing Jalen Johnson in the game, and the Hawks are not a good rebounding team. So if we have no Nurkic and no Nick Richards in this game, Washington should be able to win the rebounding battle, and that's not something you say very often. The Wizards are obviously not a good rebounding team. They're not really good at anything, but Washington should be able to win this rebounding battle if there's no Nurkic and no Nick Richards on the floor for the Phoenix Suns. On the Wizards side, there's no Brogdon and there's no Marvin Bagley. All right, so let's get into this one. We'll start with the fact that neither of these teams have been very profitable at all. Phoenix in their last 14 games, 4-9-1 against the spread, 5-9 straight up. Washington 6-8 against the spread, 3-11 straight up. So actually, the Wizards have been more profitable than the Suns, sitting at 6-8 against the spread on their last 14 games. The Wizards at home, 2-4 against the spread in their last 6, 1-5 straight up. The Suns on the road, same exact thing. 2-4 against the spread in their last 6, 1-5 straight up. Pick your poison here. You got to back the Wizards at home or the Suns on the road. Neither have been profitable. But let's take a look at the matchup. And obviously, we know the Suns are a better basketball team. Their efficiency numbers are going to be better than the Wizards. In the last 10 games, the Suns are 20th in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating. The Wizards are 26th and 29th. That being said, we do have to peep the strength of schedule here. Suns 28th in the last 10 games, dead last in the last 5 games. Wizards 17th and 6th. So by no means am I trying to say, oh, the Wizards are just as good as the Suns are. No, of course not. But we do have to point out that when we're looking at numbers from the last 10 games, Suns have played a much easier schedule than the Wizards have. Now, I mentioned rebounding before, just to show you how bad it's gotten with this Suns team. In the last 10 games, they're 30th in defensive rebounding rate, 30th, 28th in offensive rebounding rate. This has been the worst rebounding team in the NBA over the last 10 games, and we just pointed out that they haven't even played a strong schedule. So this Suns team cannot rebound for shit. Obviously, that's why they traded for Nick Richards. And with no Nurkic in this game, I mean, you look at the Wizards' rebounding numbers over the last 10 games, 24th and 16th. Obviously not good. This is not a good rebounding team. But like I said before, they should be able to win this rebounding battle against the Suns, who might be the worst rebounding team in the NBA. And honestly, when you take a look at the matchup for the Wizards' defense, it's actually not that bad. Now, it's tough to find positive angles for the Wizards because they truly are so bad. But one of the Wizards' biggest weaknesses, and this dates back to last year as well, they're a terrible fast break defense. 26th in frequency, 26th in efficiency, 28th in points per game allowed in transition. The reason I'm bringing this up, Suns don't run the fast break. They're 28th in transition frequency. So Suns not exactly the offense to exploit the weakness of the Wizards defense. Washington's defensive numbers against spot-up shooters are actually pretty average, 11th, 16th, and 15th. So look, again, I'm not trying to say the Wizards defense is good. The Wizards defense is going to lock down the Suns, nothing like that. I'm just saying on paper, it's not a bad matchup for the Wizards defensively. I mean, you look at the half-court numbers. We know the Suns like to run a half-court offense, 9th in frequency, 14th in efficiency. The Wizards are still 24th in defensive efficiency in the half-court. So the Suns are still going to be able to score. Like I said before, I'm just saying that it's not a bad matchup for the Wizards defense. As far as the other side of the court, I mean, what can you even say about the Wizards offense? They do run a lot of pick and rolls. They're 5th in frequency, but they're just 24th in efficiency. So they're not particularly good at it. The Suns are weak defensively against the pick and roll, so I suppose that's something. It's just hard to count on the Wizards offense to give you consistent scoring. The Wizards have been shooting a lot of threes. They're 4th in above the break 3 frequency in the last 10 games. Suns have actually been playing pretty good defense on the perimeter, 7th in defensive efficiency out there. So, I mean, I can't count on the Wizards to score points. So, I mean, I'm not laying 10.5, 11 points on the road with the Suns. I'm not crazy, but I don't know. Betting the Wizards in any capacity seems just as crazy. Maybe you look towards the under at 233.5, but the Wizards play such a fast pace that's risky as well. This is probably just going to be a pass for me. Next up is Cleveland on the road in Oklahoma City. We get to see this rematch. Thunder laying 2.5 points, total sitting at 232.5. The story with this one is the injury report. Not on the Cleveland side. Cavs are good to go. They're going to be at full strength for this one. But on the Oklahoma City side, we have no Hartenstein. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, there's no Chet Holmgren. That's not new. He's been out for a while. But no Hartenstein in this one for Oklahoma City, and that matters because we've seen a huge difference in production from Oklahoma City with and without Hartenstein on the floor, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. With both Holmgren and Hartenstein out, I mean, their defensive rebounding rate this year is 61.97%. That's terrible. They cannot keep opponents off the offensive glass without these guys. And look at the defensive rating. With both of those guys out, 111.4. In their last 14 games with Hartenstein on the floor, defensive rating's great. One of the best defenses in the NBA, 102.8. So this Oklahoma City defense, it's the backbone of their team. This is probably the best defense in the NBA when healthy, but missing both Holmgren and Hartenstein is a big deal. This is not the best defense in the NBA without those two guys on the floor. And check this out. Look at the three-point defense without Hartenstein and Holmgren on the floor. Over 39% opponent three-point percentage against the Thunder, which tells me that without these two guys on the floor, they're collapsing on the interior, and it's opening up opportunities for outside shots. That's huge, considering they're about to play Cleveland. As far as game results, Oklahoma City, their last 14 games with Hartenstein on the floor, 11-2-1 against the spread, 13-1 straight up. Their only loss coming to Cleveland. Without Holmgren and Hartenstein, 2-3-1 against the spread, 3-3 straight up. So I keep reiterating the same point. This is not the same team, missing both of those guys. And I mean, we just saw this matchup. Oklahoma City went on the road to Cleveland, and specifically, who gave them problems? Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen on the interior. Those two guys combined for 46 points and 21 rebounds, 13 assists, over 70% field goals. So Oklahoma City's going to have to do something to stop these two guys, and they're missing their two bigs. Definitely not a great start here for Oklahoma City. That being said, let's not pretend that this is going to be a cakewalk for Cleveland. I mean, they've really struggled against Oklahoma City, number one. In their last 16 matchups against the Thunder, they're 5-10-1 against the spread, 6-10 straight up. In their last 6 matchups against OKC as underdogs, 1-5 against the spread, 0-6 straight up. So they have not played well against the Thunder. Obviously, they won the last one, but as a whole, they've struggled with this team. And also, we know that Cleveland loves to shoot the above-the-break three-point shot. In the last 10 games, they're third in frequency. Well, Oklahoma City just so happens to be the best three-point defense in the NBA. Although I do have to point out, we already looked at it before, three-point defense definitely takes a hit when they're missing their two bigs. They have to collapse on the interior. So Cleveland should have opportunities to hit their outside shots. But this is a Cleveland offense that likes to play in the half court. They're 8th in half court frequency. Oklahoma City happens to be the best half court defense in the NBA. Obviously, that's at fully healthy, and they're not right now. But this is still not going to be a cakewalk. This is still going to be a good defense. Maybe not the best defense in the NBA. They're first in defensive rating in the year. This is still going to be a good defense. And speaking of defense, Cleveland hasn't been playing the best. In the last 10 games, Cleveland's 20th in defensive rating, 22nd in the last 5 games. Cleveland's defense is kind of trending in the wrong direction here. Look at their numbers from the last 10 games. Defensive rating is up from a 105 in the previous 10 games to a 114. Effective field goal percentage is up. Turnovers are down. Defensive rebound is down. Cleveland is not playing the same caliber of defense right now. So Oklahoma City, missing Hartenstein. There's going to be holes on the interior. Cleveland should be able to score. But I see no reason why the Thunder at home can't score points on a Cleveland defense that's trending in the wrong direction. So rather than take Cleveland +3, although I do think that's the right side, give me an over here. We definitely should see points. I mean, these are two of the best offenses in the NBA. In terms of the defense, I mean, Cleveland's defense is trending in the wrong direction. Oklahoma City missing key pieces. So I think both of these teams are hobbled defensively. But offensively, we should be good to go here. I think this one gets up and over the total. Probably bet the over in this one, but I also like Cleveland plus the points. I think I'm just going to roll with the over, though. Live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. As always, we'll go through every single game on the board. We'll go through some college basketball. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. Let's have ourselves a good one. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Later.